Hi, my name is nina.debs, and today I would like to talk to you about intensity, compassion, and unity. Intensity is something that's really important. We live it in all parts of our lives. We experience it. It helps us to be expansive in the universe, and it brings us to experience many things on many levels and many layers. And it is very important to feel those layers, to feel them. As a massage therapist and a life coach, and also as a single mother, um, I feel a lot. I feel my entire universe around me, which allows me to go in really, really deep with my clients. So I want to talk about what intensity can do for you, and compassion and unity, and tie all of those together. Intensity can carry a level of drive like a warrior seeking victory, and a calm to fall and rest. There's a there's a level of waves in every energy, like sound waves, in every emotion. And intensity has a lot of highs and a lot of lows. It can be very expansive and you can experience a lot in any particular emotion, but you can also feel the simplicity of that winding down and that calm and that rest. So for as intense as you go is intense as you will fall. And it's very important to realize that, because anytime that there's intensity of anything, of any experience, you're going to have a really high and a really low. And the low can be super intense as well. Like, you can have a really awesome, busy, crazy, creative day, and then when you fall, it's going to be like, whoa, I'm so tired. And you're also going to dream sometimes really deeply. And you can have a lot of connectedness at the end of the day as well. So those are some examples of feeling intensity. Another example is pain. In my practice and my businesses, I experience a lot of people with pain. And for 19 years now, I have been actually um, seeing how different people hold in pain and how different people experience pain and what they do with that. Pain is an intensity. Pain can be locked into many places in our bodies. And um, what it does is it reminds us to be human. It reminds us that we are vulnerable, that as unstoppable as sometimes we feel and are, that, it's time to stop once in a while and take care of our bodies, our mind, our soul. And sometimes pain can also limit us. It can say, hey, stop, slow down. And it can be quite frustrating as well, because we don't oftentimes feel like we want to. It's not a choice, but our body's like, no, you need to. I recently broke my toe, and actually it was a blessing, because slowing down really allowed me to discover a lot of things about my intuition and my gifts, and the amount of meditation that I was doing was absolutely unreal, and it reminded me of an experience that the scientist in the movie Back to the Future, he hit his head and he got a concussion, and he came up with the flux capacitor. And had he not hit his head, had he not stopped, like, hey, slow down, here's a message from the universe, he would not have figured that out, and therefore he wouldn't have completed time travel. So it's a really beautiful thing, and sometimes the universe just stops us in very creative ways, and sometimes it's not so fun either. But it reminds us to be human, and reminds us that we have limits and to slow down. And that is a very, very important factor in our life, because our bodies need to experience stillness as much as it needs to experience activity. So it's not that we are in essence of pain sometimes to have to slow down, but then it's that we have to feel the intensity of that which we aren't seeing, hearing, and feeling, and processing in our bodies, in our minds, and in our souls. And that is a really important factor of being alive. You can be alive, but you can be a zombie, or you can be alive but feel completely alive. And that is a really beautiful and valuable lesson. It's also a very beautiful and valuable experience to feel alive, to know that you're here and that you're not numb. Because some people do experience that. They experience a place where they're apathetic, they're not feeling anything, and it can be pain also brings us back to a point of reference. And I like to use my breaking my toe as an experience, a story to tell you. Your nervous system is like a portal of energy and circuits and bridges all over your body. And there's a lot of energy in it, crossing over through everywhere. And there's different languages in different places. And so when I hurt my toe, because your feet at the very end of your nervous system, it's going to trigger some other places in your body. And for me, it triggered a lot of places in my body I thought I was done with from previous experiences. And it made me really tune in that there was still pain in some other places. And I actually laid in bed and I really felt it. But when you're carrying subconscious pain in your body and you seem to just, like for me, I'm a mommy and I work and you just do what you got to do sometimes. But it's still there. It doesn't mean it's gone away if you stop feeling it. And so it's really important to tune in, because if you do not get rid of pain, you're still carrying the energy and it can be very hovering. It could be like you're carrying a lot of baggage. And so for me, it was very liberating to tune into that and realize that that was still there. And I meditated a lot and I asked it what it was and I asked it what it needed from me. And when I finally got to the very bottom layer of it, I realized some things about myself, and it really liberated me as soon as I completed that cycle. And I really don't have pain in my shoulder anymore. So it was a really great lesson. It gives you a point of reference in your life as to where you have been in your body and what you have experienced, and it's a valuable teacher. So that's very important. And sometimes we feel limited, but there is a purpose to everything, and there's a purpose to where life takes us, not only around us, with others, but also within ourselves. So for the sole purpose of perception, that's also really valuable too, is to see yourself in a different light. Anytime that you go into the shadow or the subconscious where you're holding in past experiences, always, every single time, the shadow will take you into to showing you where there's light that's hidden inside you. And the genius self, the creative child, the playful, the adventurous selves, where there's lots of gifts there too. And had we not gone there into the shadow of ourselves, sometimes we might not discover a gift that we had. So it's very, very beautiful when you can unfold yourself, because there's a purpose to everything. So some people get really scared when they're feeling that. It's very important that you master opening yourself up. Your body tells you, no, let's not do this, let's do this. And, or I can't do this. But sometimes we don't see through the limitations. And so something that you can practice is feel your body to help you allow light to come in, to progress that part of yourself that isn't so quite developed. And this is where you are reminded to feel. Being vulnerable is a gift. And Brene Brown actually talked about it in an interview on Sounds True. And she's a scientist and she was doing all this data. But the one data they weren't looking at for a while was that people who went into vulnerability and were able to really go there actually acquired a very beautiful gift through that vulnerability, and that is creativity. Because when you feel vulnerable, you open yourself up. And when you open the soul up, creativity is born. And when you can learn to master that, that is powerful. So it's really important to allow yourself to be human. Being human is why we're here, and to experience all of that. So anyway, what we call pain is really an energy. And in that energy, when we can really get there and we can really look at it, there's a beautiful place inside that pain where there is stillness. So say there's an energy in your body and it's stuck, say like it's in your neck or your lower back or your shoulder. And you finally go there and you look at it. And what happens is allows your mind to open, and all of a sudden you become very still with it. So stillness becomes another layer of this gift. Stillness has the energy of a warrior too, in its own very beautiful way. Stillness has a momentum of gathering. And when you're still, you gather energy, you collect yourself from the places that you've given yourself away or the places that were lost. So it's really important that you feel stillness. And a lot of people don't want to go there. They can't do it because when they're still, they listen to too much chatter in their head and they think it's unimportant, but it's very important to go underneath all those voices, to go underneath all of that stuff that you don't want to slow down to hear, because that's just the first part of it. That's the tip. You want to go into that place where everything is still inside you. And as soon as you get there, it's like you ring the doorbell to this portal in the universe and you open the door, and that's where you really truly find yourself, is in stillness. So stillness is a gatherer, and it's a very beautiful spirit. It gathers itself inside you and it collects inside yourself and it simmers there. It simmers like a really good stew. We have a family recipe, and it's a Sicilian Italian recipe from one of my mother's husbands. He's my stepdad, and he was Italian and Sicilian. Anyway, it's a really beautiful sauce, and it takes a couple hours to simmer. It's got anchovies and garlic and olives, and if you don't simmer it for a couple of hours, it just doesn't taste right. So there's quality in simmering. It's very important that we do that because in stillness we learn to master ourselves, and that is that is the key. Um, so when it gathers, it also has this place where it resumes. There's all this collecting and collecting and collecting and collecting, and soon that well is full. And a lot of people have fatigue, but the reason is because you've got nothing, and so you need to collect yourself, collect the pieces that you give away. Energetically, we give away a lot of soul fragments of ourselves, and that's energy. When we reach out to people, when we heal them, when we participate in conversations, when we're very active with people, we give away pieces of ourselves, and those are called soul fragments. So you need to practice every single day grounding. I do it in the morning and at night because in my practices, I have to do that in order to be able to stay grounded, so I don't get exhausted. So when that fills up, it's really important to let it fill up all the way and to just enjoy that stillness so that you can resume. And when you resume, you have this amazing energy of like, wow, and I'm passionate. And you just feel so alive all over again because you have filled all the spots in you that you've given away or that you've shared. And that's why we have so much beautiful experiences in our life, is because we're about sharing ourselves. We very much need each other. So many people think that stillness is a non-productive place to be, but it's a very productive place to be. It's whether you gather yourself and you gather the energy of the universe and the energy of your gifts that you were born to direct into the world and to share. Um, for most people, they don't see that, but I ask you to practice that. And I ask you to master it. It is the most precious, most simple place to be. Stillness gathers us. It gives us knowledge. We collect knowledge from the universe, from our ancestors, from what we seek. The universe always gives us these answers, whether it's in dream time or daydreaming or interacting with other people or going to school or anything like that. That's all gathering knowledge. And so when you're still, that's where your body says, listen. and it's gathering all this beautiful energy so that you can go and share all that information that you learned, which is really super powerful. I have something to teach you, is what it says when you're done listening. I have Spirit says, I have something to teach you. And going to that deep place of listening is when Spirit walks in. What I mean by that is your higher self. What I also mean by that is any conscious idea that you have of your higher being or your divine, whatever you want to call it, whatever religion you participate in, or that you celebrate. And it doesn't have to be anything. If you're not religious, that's great. If you're just universal consciousness, whatever you want to call it, Spirit walks in and it speaks to you. And it's very, very powerful, very insightful as well. So these are the layers in learning. And pain can be a dysfunction or it can be a teacher. It can provide movement, it can provide purpose, etc. Another example I'd like to use is recently I went to a really awesome conference in Anaheim, California, for a company called Empower Network. And I really love this company because it gives you a lot of really great material to go out there and put yourself out into the universe with your message and with your gift and allow others to do the same. So I met this beautiful man. That was my second event, and I had a blast. But what made it more fun was the people that I met and the quality of people. I needed that. I was craving these people because I just am growing so fast. Anyway, I met this gentleman, and he is Polish, moved to France, and now lives in Venezuela. And we just had such a great time getting to know each other. It was a life-changing experience for me because when I connect real deep, and I love it when people are able to connect that deeply. So anyway, we got into a very metaphysical conversation under the moonlight, and it was a really beautiful night. We actually were sitting down with a group of people, and then we just kind of kept switching tables and chairs, but no matter who we were around and what we were talking about, our own conversation between each other was really, really super beautiful. And I had only known him for a couple hours, but inside I felt like I knew him for lifetimes. And so I paid attention to that because I put a lot of value into my connections. And I love that. That's why I'm a massage therapist. That's why I'm a coach. That's why I'm a mother of 5, because I love life. I'm very Latin, so we celebrate life in everything that we do. But anyway, he asked me a question and he says to me, "What in gravity do you seek that you cannot find that is always there?" And I'm like, wow, that's a great question. What about that? So I tuned in and I went into stillness and I connected with the moon. And the moon was just right in front of me, right above me. And I thought, okay, this is a great question. We're talking about gravity, and here's the moon. So I tuned into that energy and I thought, gosh, you're just floating out there in the universe. And tell me about gravity, because anytime that you meditate, you can use anything as a portal. And the answer came to me in layers, and I was like, oh, I'd feel it, and then I'd say what I got, and then I'd feel it, and I'd say what I got, and it was this beautiful wave of answers and layers, and I was like, wow, this is so intense. I love it. And I was going back and forth to the moon and back, to the moon and back, to the moon and back, just like that cute little book, I Love You to the Moon and Back. It was really, really great. So as I was going that, every single time I represenced, and every single time I gathered more and I went deeper, and it was more simplified. It was intense in a very simple, genius way. And then I saw it and I felt it. And the deepest layer underneath all those layers, the answer was the most beautiful, beautiful thing. It was just one word: unity. The power of its message completely zoned in into my soul. I was so impacted by it. It was like a, what is it called? a rocket that just came like right into my heart, a million miles an hour, and I just totally absorbed that message. But I was at a loss for words. I closed my eyes as I was receiving the message, and the universe said, like this: unity looks like this. Unity is this. Gotta love answering machines. Cute. Um, anyway, so I simmered in it, in the simplicity of intensity, so profound in the stillness, inside the word, and inside the experience of unity, which was incredible, you know. And if you ever feel an experience, it takes over you. So English is my second language. Spanish is my first, and so I value a lot of words in English because there's so many different variations to each emotion. But at this moment, when I was in the stillness, I had tears running down my eyes because it was so powerful, and I could not help but be speechless, and it took my breath away. I cried with joy. For a few moments, I was completely taken by it, and my friend Christoph nodded, yes, I know, and because he's felt that, and then he held me, and I was like, wow, this is so deep. Um, and until I could find a place inside me that I could take all of that in, um, the result was the result was with those emotions, it allowed me to be in unity with my friend, in embrace and in hug, and actually experience what unity means. It's a very beautiful word to me now because of that experience and the way that the message was given to me. So um, it just was such a gift. So answers are everywhere if you seek, and if you look in the simplest places for those that are the places that will impact you the most. Underneath unity is compassion. The universe says, and gravity says, when we find union in ourselves, we find union in everything and everywhere. We are designed to share with each other these experiences and to find union with each other, whether it's our relationships or friendships. Wherever we go, we are always in union. We are always experiencing that, mother to baby, boyfriend, girlfriend, father, mother, a grandparent, um, business relationships. We're always coming together in some way, shape, or form in groups and establishments. So it's a great experience, right? Um, and we are designed to connect in that, and to we find love in our relationships. We find um, that we are designed to connect, and that in love we are suspended in the timelessness of these experiences. Gravity is made with love. Without love, there is no unity in anything. Without love in the universe, everything would fall apart. Even in chaos, there is love. That's what I got from the meditation. And love is a constant. Love has its own logic. It has its own agenda. It's not always to hurt us, to have pain. It has a different outlook on life. It's what created us as human beings. It's what's created the planet and the planets and the solar systems. Comes with great imagination that we are still learning how to understand. So just like our moon, it's suspended in union with our planet, and it's suspended there with love, because without this beautiful moon, we would not have balance on the planet and in the solar system. It's in complete compassion with us, and it sees us, and it smiles down at us, knowing the very secret that I'm telling you right now. So, compassion is a witness, and we experience compassion all the time for others and in ourselves. And so, in intensity and in pain and in stillness, we come down to compassion, which is another layer. That is all it is. Recently, I went. Recently, on my return home from this conference, I was at the security area, LAX, and I witnessed something that changed my life. And it's something very small, but it was really huge. I was at the security and had just placed all my items in the bin. And when a guy in a wheelchair was being directed to the X-ray scanner where you stand with your arms up, and he was about in his 70s of Oriental descent. He had two other relatives behind him. They were a little bit younger, a man and a woman, and they all looked like they didn't speak any English. So, they were kind of in a very vulnerable place. And the security guard comes up to the guy in the wheelchair, and he asked him to get out of the wheelchair. And I'm just like, and everybody else around me was like, what is this guy doing? And he asked this very frail man who's in a wheelchair for a reason to get up so that he can go through the scanner. And I'm just like, that's not right. And I mean, like, the look on my face was just like unreal. I was like, no way. And everybody else's faces looked the same. Like, I looked around the room and I was like, is everybody feeling what I'm feeling? Is everybody experiencing what I'm experiencing? Because this is not right. And it was very non-compassionate. The security guard just didn't seem happy with himself. He just seemed like a robot. And it was really, really sad. And he was barely holding on to the man. And the man almost fell. And I was pretty close. And in him almost falling, like, my instincts just wanted to go run and make sure that he didn't fall. And I'm thinking, where is my phone? I need to get this on video because this just isn't right, the way that people are being treated through this system. And it was already going through the scanners and stuff, but everybody, I mean, there was a room full of over 40 people, and everyone was just zoned in on this and what was happening, and it was horrible. But it was only for a few minutes, and then another man comes through the scanner, and he's a big security guard, and he was the only one that took any action. And so it just it just goes to show you that not everybody is asleep, but some people are, and those people can really greatly affect us, as well as the people who are awake. So this man comes and grabs him, apologizes, puts him back in the wheelchair, and just like nothing happened, opens up the handicap access little door that they have there that's glass, and just very lovingly takes him over to a chair. And they sat him down and just kindly searched his pockets and then took the metal scanner around him and all of that. And you can imagine how scary this was for this man. He doesn't speak English. He's in a very vulnerable place, and then he has his other few people that are his relatives, and of course they're not feeling like they can do anything. So I grabbed my stuff, and of course, you have to like put your shoes back on, put your jewelry back on, take everything. And I had a couple of bags with me, and so I just went and sat in the chair next to them, and I just, for a minute, had to catch myself because I was feeling the emotions with everyone. And then when I sat down, I just had to take a pause and feel the emotions that I was feeling. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to make sense of my emotions with this experience. And through this new system that we have in airport security and all that, we all, after what happened, have had to sacrifice a little bit of our liberties in order to have safety everywhere we go. And that is a really great movement, but at the same time, it should not lack compassion. And that for me, just still to this day, 6 days later, it still has impacted me. It hasn't damaged me in any way, but it's really made me think about who we are as people. Do we stand there and watch something happen to someone, or do we speak up? Um, and things are like that are happening around us all the time. And so what I took from that was, life is always giving us opportunities to feel and remember to have compassion in all things and in all places and at all times. So that was a really great experience for me. Inside I was so sad. I felt helpless, and nobody wanted to stand up to this authority. You have all these security guards there, and you say anything, they kind of get mad sometimes, and you don't want to be a threat to them. But I think sometimes those times are necessary to say, can you just be a little nicer to him? So that made me pretty sad. Instead, all of us, there is a place where we can all participate, um, and direct goodness into the world. So that's what I wanted. That's where I wanted to go with that. And there's also a place of innocence that happens with compassion, where we remember the very beginning of ourselves is how fragile life is, how um, how big we are, yet we're so small and so fragile inside our little molecules that we are, and the way that we begun and the way that we grow through time, and then the way that life ends. It has a cycle to everything, just like nature does. So anyway, life is always giving us opportunities to teach us love and compassion, and to never forget love, and to never direct ourselves with love. We are suspended in time, creating lives together. Stories, experiences, emotions, conversations, verbal and nonverbal. Let us be reminded of how we are not separate, but we are very much united together inside gravity in the universe, in a loving universe, so still and so perfect, always simmering in this beautiful love that's holding stillness for us in perfection. We are art together. We live with all your heart. Feel everything, question everything, embrace everything, share your experiences, and empower yourself and others. There's always opportunities to empower yourself and others, even if it starts just with you and then your very own family, and then outreach to your friends and network wherever you go, to have that beauty that is being created inside us all the time. There's just that seed that is always growing of love and compassion and unity. And it can be very intense, and it can be very simple at the same time. So, from my heart to yours, Shazam. This is Nina.debs with Empower Network, single mom, massage therapist, life coach, and I'm also a life advocate. Say yes to love. Thank you, and have a beautiful, wonderful day.